Hi guys, this is Mrs. Bray, and today we're going to talk about how to write a summary. What is a summary? Well, when you think about writing, you think about writing as a tool of thought. But what exactly is a summary? Is it just a tool of thought? Learning to write means more than just learning how to organize information, how to construct sentences, how to use appropriate forms. It's about learning how to write in order to think well. For writing a summary, you guys have to have really good reading strategies. And for reading strategies, these are things that we're going to be doing in class and at home. But what I want you to do with reading, when you are assigned an article or you're given a novel to read, I want you to read it to get an overview of it. Basically, what is the idea of this article? Yes, a lot of times you can discover that in the title of a text, but there are other ways to get an overview of it, and that's by generally reading it. The next thing I want you to do is to read it several times. A lot of times students make the mistake of just reading an article one time and thinking that they've got the gist of it. Well, that's not necessarily the case. Authors do have a specific meaning in mind when they write an article, but there are also underlying ideas and messages that they have within the article that the reader can draw out. I want you to, when you read these articles, identify the main points. So looking at what the author is using, usually those points can be found within the paragraphs of the article. Look for terms, so looking for specific terms that authors are using, and then go back and look at the examples. What kind of examples is the author using? Why did they use that example? How does that example help build or support their ideas? And then the last thing, when you read, you need to look at the overall organization of the piece to see how the writer has structured the piece. Is it in chronological order? Things like that, etc. For writing strategies, one of the things that we're going to do in this class, we're going to look at how to write a descriptive says, does outline. I think that's probably one of the easiest ways for young writers to figure out what an article is saying versus what it is doing. And I know you're probably thinking that those are one and the same, but they're not. An author can be saying something, but they can also be doing something while they're writing that as well. So if an author is saying that we should stop gerrymandering with voting districts, he is doing it by making an argument. So just kind of looking at how the two things relate, but they are different. So the thing that you want to look at when you're looking at the says does, but there's four different things here. The first one is the questions that the author addresses. Is it explicit or implicit? So basically, does the author straight up tell you what he's saying or what he's meaning? Or is he implying it by subtly hiding it in the text? And then you as a reader, your job is to pull that out. The next thing that you want to do is look at the main parts of the text. That could just be doing your basics thing that you learned in freshman English by looking at captions and headings and titles. So looking for the main parts of what is going on in the article. The next one is to look at patterns. Patterns can be various things such as repetitions, what is being repeated in the text. Strands, what sentences or words or things go together. How do those work in correlation with one another? And then binaries are going to be things that are opposites of each other. So looking at the idea that the author may use specific terms, but then those terms may be very different in meanings. The last thing that you to do for writing strategies is to look for aspects of the article that don't fit or don't belong. This again is called an anomaly. So looking for something that doesn't quite work in the article, thinking about how or why the author added that in there. So always look for those anomalies. I know that I see them a lot when I come across things in my reading, and I know that you guys should be looking for those things as well in yours. To write an accurate summary, there are a few questions that I want you to think about. First is, which of the ideas in the reading are most significant and why? How do these ideas fit together? And then what do the key passages in the reading mean? Guys, when you look at summary, summary means to recount in reduction form from someone else's ideas. So basically, you're looking at someone else's ideas, you're reducing that information down. It's someone else's ideas, it's not your own, it's theirs. But you're trying to find a way that you can retell this information to a person who may not have read the article itself. An effective summary does not assume that the subject matter can speak for itself. So basically, when you're writing a summary, you're not thinking that the subject matter, oh, well, Miss Bray's already read this article, so she knows what's in it, so I'm going to skip this little minor detail because, why put that in there? It's extra work on me. That's not what you want to do. You want to explain that. You want to assume that the information needs to be shared with the reader. A good summary also provides perspective on the subject matter as a whole by explaining the meaning and function of each part. Summaries have a tendency to make smaller interpretive leaps. So basically, you're looking at the perspective of the subject matter by explaining how each thing works together, how each small part works together. And then basically, with a summary, you're not really making a lot of interpretation. You're not coming up with your own ideas or conclusions about what the author means. You're just retelling those ideas in your own words. Guidelines. So the guidelines, guys, that I want you to think about with writing a summary, the first one is describe with care. The words you choose to summarize your data will contain the germs of your ideas about what the subject means. So make sure that you're describing with care that information. The second one is to scrutinize your language. Why did I choose this word? So when you're reading these articles, why did this word stand out to you? What was so important about it? Why did it stand out to me? And then what ideas are implicit in the language I have chosen? So what ideas really does it lend itself to? What does it bring forth? Guys, I want you to look at the communication triangle here. And in the center of this triangle, you would see the word communication. So there's three things that are focused with this. You have the writer-centered communication, you have the reader-centered communication, and you have the subject-centered communication. So you start with the subject, go to the writer, and then to the reader, and they're all interconnected. All right, guys, so for review, number one, what is a summary? Again, a summary is a recount in reduction form of someone else's ideas. So you're summarizing someone else's ideas. You're bringing to light their main points, their main ideas in a passage or a text. An effective summary is a summary that does not assume the subject matter can speak for itself. An effective summary is going to give the reader the information that is needed or detailed in that aspect. A good summary provides perspective on the subject as a whole by explaining the meaning and function of each part. So just because you may have reached the requirements that, the summary is a page long and you've already reached a page, you may need to go a little bit beyond that because you need to add good details in there. You need to make sure that you're explaining each part. You just don't want to leave your reader hanging. And then the last part is the guidelines, describing with care and scrutinizing the language. Remember that you're choosing words to summarize the data, and that those words will contain germs of ideas about what the subject means. And then scrutinize it means that you're going to be looking at why you chose that specific word to focus on. Guys, I hope that this summary presentation has been helpful for you. If you need any help, please make sure to contact us and we will get back with you as soon as we can. Good luck on writing your summaries, and I want to wish you the best. Thanks for listening.